You open your brokerage account one day, and for the first time ever, you see a six-figure number staring back at you, $100,000. And in that moment, you're not really sure how to feel. Part of you feels proud because you know this didn't happen overnight. And another part of you feels underwhelmed because if you spend more than 5 minutes online, it seems like everyone else is already a millionaire. But here's the truth. Having $100,000 invested puts you in a far better financial position than most people will ever reach, whether they realize it or not. Today, I want to walk you through exactly where you stand financially if you've hit that milestone. Most people never reach $100,000 in invested assets. Life gets in the way, expenses pile up, and for a lot of people, investing never becomes a real habit. So, if you're here, it already tells me a few things about you. You've learned to live below your means. You've delayed gratification when it would have been easier to spend. And you've stayed consistent long enough for the numbers to finally reflect your effort. That alone puts you ahead of the majority of people, even if it doesn't feel that way yet. Now let's talk about what this money actually does for you. If your $100,000 is invested in a diversified portfolio, earning around a 3% dividend yield, you're generating roughly $3,000 a year in passive income. That's about $250 a month. No, that's not enough to quit your job. And no one's pretending it is. But that $250 is coming in whether you work overtime, call in sick, or take a vacation. It can cover groceries, a utility bill, or your phone plan, or it can be reinvested to buy even more income-producing assets. Either way, the key point is this. Your money has officially started working without you. Something important happens mentally when you cross this threshold. Before $100,000, progress feels painfully slow. Every market dip feels personal. Every contribution feels like it barely moves the needle, and it's easy to wonder if investing is even worth the effort. But once you hit six figures, the math starts to feel different. A decent year in the market can add $10,000 to your portfolio without you lifting a finger. A few dividend increases can quietly boost your income without you doing anything at all. This is usually the point where doubt turns into belief. When people talk about financial freedom, what they're really talking about is replacing their cost of living with investment income. Let's say you need $50,000 a year to support your lifestyle. Using a conservative 3% income target, that means you'd need about $1.6 to $1.7 million invested to fully live off your portfolio. With $100,000, you're not there yet, but you're no longer at the starting line either. You've already handled the hardest part, which is getting the first six figures together in the first place. The reason the first $100,000 matters so much is because it's the most difficult money you'll ever accumulate. Early on, you're fighting low balances, limited compounding, and constant temptation to spend instead of invest. But once you reach this level, the portfolio starts to grow under its own weight. Even if you stopped contributing entirely and just let that $100,000 grow at an average rate, it could double in a little over a decade. Add consistent monthly investing on top of that, and the growth accelerates faster than most people expect. Ironically, this is also where many people slow down. They hit $100,000, get comfortable, and take their foot off the gas. Contributions drop, spending creeps up, and progress stalls. That's a mistake because $100,000 isn't freedom. It's leverage. The people who actually go on to achieve financial independence are the ones who treat this milestone not as a finish line, but as a foundation they continue to build on aggressively. Even if you're not anywhere close to retiring, having $100,000 invested gives you something incredibly valuable: options. You're less dependent on your paycheck. You can handle unexpected expenses without panic. You can afford to take smarter risks, whether that's changing careers, starting a side hustle, or investing in yourself. That kind of financial buffer reduces stress in ways that are hard to fully appreciate until you experience it. At this stage, your focus should shift away from chasing the next hot investment and toward consistency and durability. You want assets that grow steadily, pay reliable income, and increase that income over time. This is where long-term investing really shines. You don't need home runs anymore. You need base hits over and over again while protecting what you've already built. If you already have $100,000 invested and you continue contributing something like $1,500 a month, you could realistically reach $500,000 within the next decade or so, assuming reasonable returns. At that point, your portfolio starts producing income that genuinely changes how you live and work. And once you reach that level, the next $500,000 comes even faster. The quiet advantage you have right now is that you no longer need motivation. You've already proven to yourself that you can do this. You've built wealth in a system that's designed to pull money out of your hands at every turn. And that discipline gives you leverage going forward. From here on out, success is mostly about patience, execution, and not getting in your own way. If you have $100,000 invested, you're not rich, but you're no longer stuck. You're no longer guessing whether investing works, and you're no longer starting from zero. You're at the point where time and consistency will do most of the heavy lifting for you. And if you stay the course, this portfolio won't just grow. Eventually, it will buy you your time back. And the most important thing to understand at this stage is that time is finally on your side. When your portfolio is small, time feels like the enemy because progress is slow and every setback feels magnified. But once you've reached $100,000, every year that passes works in your favor instead of against you. Market downturns become opportunities instead of threats, and volatility stops being something you fear and starts being something you quietly benefit from. This is also the point where patience becomes your biggest asset. You don't need to constantly tweak, trade, or reinvent your strategy. You simply need to stay invested, keep contributing, and allow the process to unfold. It's also worth mentioning that this is where confidence starts to replace anxiety. You no longer check your account balance out of desperation or curiosity. You check it to track progress. You understand that short-term noise doesn't matter nearly as much as long-term direction. And once you internalize that, investing stops feeling like a gamble and starts feeling like a plan. That mental shift alone is often what separates the people who eventually reach financial freedom from the ones who quietly fall off along the way. It's also worth mentioning that this is where confidence starts to replace anxiety. This is also the point where your investing strategy starts to matter more than your investing enthusiasm. Early on, excitement can carry you pretty far. You're motivated, you're curious, and you're willing to try things out. But at six figures, discipline becomes more important than energy. Sticking to a boring, repeatable strategy will almost always outperform jumping between ideas, even when those ideas sound compelling in the moment. At the same time, having $100,000 invested gives you a clearer picture of what actually moves the needle. You realize that obsessing over tiny optimizations doesn't change much, while increasing your savings rate or your income does. Instead of worrying about perfect timing, you focus on controllable factors like how much you invest and how consistently you do it. That shift alone can dramatically speed up your progress. Finally, this stage forces you to think more seriously about what you're actually working toward. Financial freedom stops being an abstract concept and starts becoming a real destination with numbers attached to it. You can see the path more clearly now, and while it may still be long, it's no longer mysterious. You know what the next steps are, and that clarity makes it much easier to stay committed when motivation inevitably fades.